Welcome to Jersey City Boxing Fan. I'm not an expert, I'm just a fan. So I was working on my next boxing matchup. It's boxing matchup number 3, and I plan on doing one between marvelous Marvin Hagler and Toney Zale. But just kind of started thinking about some things that maybe I haven't said before fully and or really expressed, and that is how much I respect boxers. I mean, I just respect all the boxers. And, I'm almost 50 years old right now, and I look back to the 80s, 70s, 90s. And, a lot of times you had boxing on Saturday afternoons. I don't remember Sunday afternoons, but I remember Saturday afternoons on maybe like, ABC or NBC. They would have afternoon boxing matches. And, you always had the ones on Tuesday night fights. You had HBO fights, Showtime fights. There's a lot of boxing going on. And, this video, I just want to talk about some of the fighters who maybe held the title for a little while, or maybe they fought for a title but weren't successful. But, the ones who aren't household names. So you have, we all know the Mike Tysons, Evander Holyfields. We all know the Lennox Lewises and the Julio Cesar Chavezes. But there's a lot of boxers who mega dedicated, so committed to the sport, and aren't household names, but brought me a lot of joy and happiness and moved me so much watching their performances. I feel like a lot of these fighters, that had to grind it out and put in the work, sometimes aren't remembered. So, I kind of look to as far as dedication, I'm a musician. I never boxed. I had a heavy bag and a speed bag as a kid, but I worked out a lot. But I wasn't I never boxed. Never been to a boxing gym even. But I always loved boxing, and I always think of like the 10,000 hour rule. I don't know if you ever heard this theory that to get really good, expert at something, it takes about 10,000 hours. So with music, I mean, yeah, when I was a teenager, in my 20s, I used to practice hours a day, every day. And, it takes that dedication to get good at something. Not to knock a generation because, I think kids nowadays are great. But sometimes some kids don't seem to understand that you can't just say, I'm going to be a drummer and then you're a drummer. Or I'm going to be a pitcher in baseball and you're a pitcher. It takes a lot of dedication, time, commitment, and failure, right? You have to get past failure before you can get good at something. And think about boxing, because you're in a sport where failure means you're going to get hit really hard and it's going to hurt, or you're going to get knocked out. So it is physically draining, I think, and to try to be a boxer, all the hours in the gym, all the waking up early and running. So some of my favorite boxers, though, that I feel like sometimes don't get their due, that we don't talk about, but who should be remembered, are people like Burt Cooper, heavyweight Burt Cooper. I think he might have been a lower weight and moved up, but, there was some great fights with him. He fought Evander Holyfield and, almost knocked Holyfield. He hurt Holyfield really bad early on, I think, in the fight. And I remember being shocked by that. And he fought a lot of other great heavyweights of his time and did well, did well. And tough guy. I think he was from Philly. Also, another guy I remember from years ago, Tony Thornton. I think we call him Tony the Postman Thornton. You had Stevie Collins, Simon Brown, who's a trainer now, Glenwood Brown. I think he was from Plainfield, New Jersey. Maurice Blocker. Just some of the names that stand out as like people you might not remember. Some people might not remember them, but amazing. Here's a name that I hadn't thought of in a long time. And it's funny because I saw The Fighter in 2010, the movie with Mark Wahlberg about Mickey Ward. And afterwards, when I watched it on DVR, there was a scene where there was a referee with black hair. They just showed him for a split second. And he reminded me, I thought it was it wasn't him, but I thought it was a boxer that I remember from the 80s and 90s. And it drove me crazy for the past few months trying to figure out who it was. And I'm like, it looks like someone. I could think of what the person looks like. I just couldn't find him. I looked on BoxRec, trying to look for who is this boxer that I know that I liked a lot at the time, but I can't. Doug Dewitt, man, he had a unique nose. And it took me months to remember Doug DeWitt's name. Jorge Paez, El Maromero from he had great wars with I remember Calvin Grove, great boxer and unique, and he would do flips in the ring. Greg Haugen, what a tough guy, man. Greg Haugen. People should know Greg Haugen. He had all those wars with Vinny Pazienza. I think he gave Camacho his first loss, and it's kind of controversial. And did they take a point for not shaking hands? Something weird like that. Jamie Howe. I used to watch him on Tuesday night fights sometimes, and I remember him fighting Renaldo Snipes. And Jamie Howe would take a punch, man, and he just wouldn't go down. He just kept taking punch, and he's hanging in there. Troy Dorsey. Remember Troy Dorsey? He had that mullet. Tough guy, tough little guy. Wouldn't want to be in a back alley with him. Darrin Van Horn. Remember him? And Micky Ward. One of my favorites is Micky Ward. And I liked him before the Gaddy fight. So I'm going to just end this with like a story that I'm on BoxRec, and I'm looking at Micky Ward's record, and I see that he had a TKO in the third round against Vince Phillips. And I'm thinking, I don't ever remember Micky Ward getting that hurt where he was like knocked out. I was like, what is this? How did this happen? I go on YouTube, I look at the fight, and to give you the background to it, Micky Ward had a lot of tough fights, and I think this was his first title shot against Vince Phillips, who had a lot that he went through too and overcame. So it's in Boston. It's in like this little nightclub, like disco type thing that they converted into like a boxing ring and had stands. And it's a Micky Ward hometown crowd, fully there for Micky Ward. So they're fighting, and Vince Phillips is good. And I would say Vince Phillips was getting the best of Micky Ward, and Micky Ward was covering up a lot. In the third round, Vince Phillips hits him with a right. Now, I was watching the slow motion replay. He hits him with a right, and then another right. But the second right, I could swear, it looked almost like an elbow. Not intentionally, like he almost missed and gave him an elbow, but I could be wrong on that. I'm not sure. I didn't see anything online about that. But either way, he cuts him real bad over his left eye, right? So, real bad gash. At the end of the third round, the referee brings Micky Ward to the corner and gets the doctor. And the doctor, now there's only 10 seconds left in the round. I don't know if the referee knew that or not. The doctor's looking at his eye, and Micky Ward's saying, please let it continue. Micky Ward's trainer, the cop who's actually in the fight, or the movie, acted in the movie, is yelling, let it continue. He's all right. We'll fix it in the corner. The doctor tells the ref, nah, it's too bad of a cut. Immediately, beer cans, bottles, everything's getting thrown into the ring. Man, this is the point of this story, is like the class of Micky Ward and his trainer. Micky Ward's trainer, instead of going to Micky Ward, actually, because they were throwing the bottles at Vince Phillips, gets over Vince Phillips and kind of covers him so that nothing hits him. Micky Ward starts frantically motioning to the crowd to stop, it's okay, stop. So now, Alex Wallow and Dan Deardoff were the announcers, and Alex Wallow interviews the ring doctor. I don't know if I said this yet, the ring doctor was a female, so, which was unique at the time, I guess, but she said she'd been doing this for like 4 or 5 years with boxing. It was a little cringy. Alex Wallow kind of implied that, you sure you didn't stop it because you're a girl and you feel bad, and she was just she was really polite and didn't seem visibly upset, but it was a little weird.
There are going to be a lot of people, sexist though they may be, who are not used to seeing a woman doctor to fight, who are going to say that somehow you didn't have the heart to let it go on and bother you more than it would, and that you should have given him a chance to continue and see if his corner could stop it 11 seconds later. I'm sure you're aware of that. How do you respond to that?
Micky's got a lot of heart, but I know what a bad cut looks like, and that was a terrible cut, and it shouldn't continue on to get bigger.
Forgive my ignorance. Do you do this regularly?
Yes, I've been doing this for 5 or 6 years now.
Thank you for taking the time to talk to us. Bye-bye.
Then they interview Bob Arum. Bob Arum actually says, basically, I'm paraphrasing, women have no place in boxing, and, if it was a man, he wouldn't have stopped this fight. Oof, not cool to see.
And I really question whether, and I know I'll regret it when I get home, whether we should have women doctors at ringside. This is a male sport, and it should have male officials.
Stop.
Now they go to Micky Ward. Picture yourself as Micky Ward. Your first title fight, you're in your hometown crowd, your whole family's there, the crowd's flipping out, you're upset because you couldn't finish. They ask him, should they have stopped the fight? He says, I think they should have let it go, let me get to my corner. because it was only 10 seconds left, and we'll see if they could stop it. But then he says, but you know what? The ring doctor, that's her job, and it's her decision. And if she thought it should have been stopped, that's her prerogative, basically. And, you know, she has the right to do it, and no complaints. What a class act.
I wanted the doctor to give me one more, see if they could at least stop it, you know what I mean? At least see if they could stop it. If they couldn't, then fine. You know, she had to do what she had to do. But, you know, that's her job, and I respect her decision.
So I don't know how this fits into everything else I said, but I guess my point is that a lot of these boxers that, you know, that we love and we give us all this joy, you know, they're people, and they're good, hardworking people, a lot of these guys. And, you know, when their names disappear, it's just kind of sad to me that the names disappear and people don't talk about it anymore. So anyway, Jersey City boxing fan. I am not an expert. I'm just a fan. Look to my next video between Toney, Zale, and Marvin Hagler coming out soon.